When The Mandalorian was announced, a lot of fans were skeptical, myself included. Not because it was a show centered around a Mandalorian, but because it was the first live-action Star Wars series ever. But the trailers started rolling out and I said, okay, this looks pretty decent. Then, the first episode aired, and from the first seconds of the opening scene, I was hooked. I had been worried about the budget for the show, what the special effects would look like, and what this would mean for the Star Wars franchise. However, this was really good. So let's talk about the first episode of The Mandalorian. Not just the plot, but the theme and even some Easter eggs. Today, on Star Wars Fanatic. If you're new around these here parts, go on and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all my Star Wars content. From the opening sequence to the first episode, I was impressed. I couldn't even remember why I was worried about this series in the first place. Maybe I worry too much, or maybe I didn't want this show to become divisive as The Last Jedi had been. Remember, The Rise of Skywalker was still a month away from being released by this time. Kathleen Kennedy seemed to be throwing anyone at a Star Wars project that wanted to give it a try. However, this team was different. This was Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. There should not have been a worry in the world about it. Everything Jon Favreau touched turned to gold. He was like Midas, and Dave Filoni was George Lucas's personal protege. When the first trailer released, we saw a Quarren stuck in a circular door as the door closed. But it cut scene just before anything happened. However, in the show, the door fully closed. And we see the bottom half of the thug plop to the floor. We had seen dismemberments and even Darth Maul cut in half, but there was something completely different about this particular death that screamed out, okay, Star Wars just got real. That isn't diminishing from the other deaths we had been watching on screen, but rather put a whole new level into it. The only reason I could think of it was because it wasn't a Jedi nor a Sith doing the dismembering. When we had seen this sort of thing before, it was mostly due to a lightsaber, but now, this Mandalorian could be a normal guy. Mando could be me, my neighbor, or some bloke I bumped into at the convenience store while getting coffee. Sure, he had gadgets that would make him more of a Batman than most regular people are, but he definitely was not this indestructible Superman. In other words, if the technology existed, any one of us could have been this Mandalorian. To be a Jedi or Sith is a bit more complicated. Mando is not superhuman, and we could put ourselves in his Beskar just from this one kill. It becomes apparent very quickly that this particular Mandalorian has taken on the profession of bounty hunting. If you know anything about the Mandalorian culture, it is one of the honorable professions in the Mandalorian society. I won't get into the history of that, but you can go back and watch one of my older videos on the Rezelnair and the Super Commando Codex, if you're interested in learning more about Mandalorian society and culture. But I digress. Mando takes out 2 thugs in the bar with no collateral damage. There wasn't even a broken bar stool or table. Now, that's efficiency at its finest. I think John Wayne could have learned a thing or two from this guy. Oh wait, John Wayne's grandson is in the suit during this moment. Anyways, Mando is here for a bounty, and the first line he speaks becomes an instant Star Wars classic quote. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. This is good stuff. Of course the bounty goes along without a fight. Mando then has to get the bounty to his ship. He hails a speeder but shows he has a lack of love for the first one to arrive due to it being piloted by a droid. The next speeder to arrive has a pilot that is familiar to dorks, nerds, and geeks worldwide. It's Brian Posehn, comedian, actor, and a huge Star Wars nerd. You may have seen him on The Big Bang Theory, but what I like is his comedy. He is often using Star Wars in his acts. He loves the franchise, and it was good to see him in a Star Wars role. But he didn't last long. After he dropped off Mando and his bounty at the ship, he and his speeder were eaten by a Ravenak, which is a giant type of seal whale thingy. Hard to explain, but poor cautious speeder guy. Mando has a tough time escaping from the same reason as well. But in a throwback to the 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special, he shocks the creature and they make it out. I wouldn't call the weapon he used an Easter egg, but rather a nod to Boba Fett in the ill-fated Holiday Special. As horrible as that show was, Boba Fett's introduction as a cartoon character was the best part. The weapon he used was a rifle with 2 prongs on the muzzle, used for shocking. Mando used the same weapon. So, Mando turns in the bounty to Carl Weathers, Grief Karga, and gets paid in Mon Calamari flam. That's weird, but okay, I guess. Then is offered another high-profile job, this time from an Imperial remnant. He agrees to meet the Imperial, then takes the job. On his journey, he meets an Ugnaught, which is a type of little pig guy that we first saw on Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back. Nice throwback. In fact, he meets another character which resembles another character in The Empire Strikes Back, IG-11, an assassin droid of the same make as IG-88, the droid aboard Darth Vader's Super Star Destroyer. Come to think of it, this is the first live-action Mandalorian we have seen since Boba Fett, who first appeared in live action in, you guessed it, The Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, a lot of The Empire Strikes Back nods and throwbacks in this episode. I'm going to go back for a moment, back to Mando being on Navarro. When he was walking to meet the Imperial client for the first time, it seems there is a market. In the foreground, there are 2 Jawas rummaging through scrap metal. Look at the piece one of the Jawas holds up. You won't miss it if you blink. The camera even focuses on the item and the Jawa in front for a moment. Look closer. What does that scrap metal look like? Well, it's General Grievous's arm. I noticed it the first time I watched it. I even had to back it up and pause it on it to be sure. But yeah, there it is in plain sight. I love it when they throw in things like this from the movies. You're meant to see it if you look for it. I always look for it. Anyways, he's on the mission to bring back an Imperial asset. He runs into a nest of Nikto. Apparently, they have this asset behind closed doors. It's never really explained why they have it. Later, I believe in episode 2, we can kind of guess why. But I won't go into that now. After Mando and IG-11 kill all the Nikto, they enter the facility and find the bounty. It's a child. Not just any child, but a child of the same species as Yoda. So, since he was given no name at this time, everyone started calling him Baby Yoda. Yoda. Come to think of it, his first appearance was in The Empire Strikes Back as well. Seems to be a theme developing. One of the most beloved Star Wars movies is being connected to The Mandalorian. Success. IG-11 wants to kill Baby Yoda, but Mando ends that plan quickly by blasting a hole in the assassin droid's head. That's where the episode ends. And what a way to kick off a series. No, wait. What a way to kick off a series and a streaming platform. The Mandalorian aired the same day as Disney Plus became available. Lucasfilm really killed it this time. There should be no divisiveness. And, for the most part, there wasn't. What a breath of fresh air. It was okay to be a Star Wars fan again. And, with the addition of Baby Yoda, yes, I know he has a name now, and I will go into that when I do that episode's review. New fans were jumping on board all the time. Star Wars was no longer for nerdy dudes anymore. Everyone could enjoy this story. And it's changing the way Star Wars is seen. Yes, it's always been popular, but it was not popular to admit you liked it, especially if you liked The Last Jedi. But this is some of the best Star Wars to come out in decades. Let me know in the comments below what you think of The Mandalorian. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Did you notice some Easter eggs that I have missed? I'd love to hear from you. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all my Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and general Star Wars discussions, reviews, theories, and fanfictions. Also, hit the thumbs up to show your love for the hard work I put into every video, and share the video. Let's see how high we can take this channel. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.